welcome to the video. I know this is like wiggly. Yeah, there we go. But I thought I'd do a video. I'm thinking about getting a new MIDI keyboard instead of this piece of shit. Like, I don't use this for the sounds in it. It's just a MIDI controller for the computer, since I sold my Korg Triton and like my hardware synthesizers from the past. They used to be the MIDI controllers. But I was thinking of giving you guys an impromptu kind of video, and in a way, as the feedback loop fades away, this is like a practice run for me in a way of making more types of videos like this. If I do get my new MIDI keyboard, stuff like that, this is like an impromptu way of showing you guys what I'm fucking with. And basically, I started to like try to give you guys like a big tutorial of like FL Studio and not FL Studio, but like Logic rewiring to FL Studio with the Mac setup, and Logic rewiring to Ableton and the feedback loops in Ableton, my setup, and the feedback loops in Logic and my setup. But I said, no. Let's just simplify it. And this is just, I'm going to do a beat breakdown instead of trying to make a beat for y'all, which would be a whole lot more time consuming on everybody's end. I'm going to break down this beat, right? So for example, right, this is the ninth Wizard beat, our Wizard beat, right? It's not Wizard, it's whatever. Well, this is that beat. And so, for example, how I created the feedback loop. And basically, at the end of this, maybe I'll show you how I do it. Or I could do it now, if I guess. Open another recent project. Don't close this one. Leave this one open. And then show you, like, this is a default template. If you can see and focus on this shit right here. It's 10 from this channel here that I'm going to highlight at the feedback in digitally. This is just all digital, to the 10th feedback channel that feeds to the feedback out, right? That is the only one that you can hear. The only channel that actually comes to your ear, or through the mix out the output and the master channel, is the feedback out channel. The 11th channel in this chain of effects and things you can put in here, it's a feedback loop. So the final channel, right, the 11th channel, sends back to bus 1, that is the start of the feedback loop. And then the bus 1 sends to bus 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way to 11, it sends back to 1. But 11, the feedback out channel, is the only one we can hear. And that's basically how the Logic side of things is set up. Like, basically, just as a default, this is how I'm starting all of my beats, with 11, like, feedback loop, a digital feedback loop grid, like, already built for me. So I don't have to do it every time. And every channel has a limiter on it, so it's not exceeding 0 dB and stuff. You know, all that wiggly shit. And so let's close this one and go back to the beat I'm explaining. So you can see down here, it's all these limiter channels and the feedback stuff over here. That's that digital feedback loop from that channel feedback in to the 10th channel. But the feedback out is now over here, because I moved it around because I was doing automation to it, because that's the final automation up here of the feedback loop channel. And in this particular song, the feedback loop is not that prevalent. In other songs, it's very prevalent. It's like the main bass part, or it's like always there. In this song, it's in the background just a little bit sometimes in there, and then it's part of one effect. So the basic thing is, it's just the reactor, right? I got the reactor, and so reactor 6 running like the old Screwwell plugin, right? Which is like a noise generator. You see it running. So it's just a noise generator. And I really I pulled it up and I went to preset number 3 called Neighbors Love Something Something. Preset 3, default screw weld in my library of Reactor 6. And I didn't even mess with anything, but you see, like, if I go to the delay settings, you see the delay settings are cranked in this preset, and the feedback levels are pretty cranked up in certain parts, and and it's just, that's the sound generation that it's creating. It's just a feedback loop of noise or whatever, but it sounds like this, right? Or at least when I automate this, let's try to show you. This top yellow line is the automation, the volume of when we can hear the Reactor screw well plugin doing its feedback loop thing. So it's automated here in the start of it, like kind of fading in, bouncing around, dropping off, and the track under it is the feedback loop. And the feedback loop is one of the only things feeding to the feedback loop channel is the screw well plugin and then the keys. So I'll get to the keys later, but how the let's mute the feedback loop, right? Let's mute the feedback loop. So I'll show you the screw well sound by itself with the automation. Excuse me. That was everything minus the feedback loop. This is the screw well by itself. You see? And the end is the important part, really. And see, this is how it sounds never ending, right? It just kind of does that thing. And then so in the song, how it fades out is it goes. And that's the intro, right? That's the intro without the feedback loop. But since this channel is feeding to the feedback loop with the feedback loop channel, it sounds like this. You hear that? It's like, it's so basically the feedback loop. The feedback loop in this scenario is basically acting as a delay kind of reverb, extending the tail of the sound kind of thing. So the screw well sound is activating the feedback loop, and it basically fades away. The feedback loop would fade away by itself because that's just the parameters of the level set in the feedback loop going on. And the only thing going on in the feedback loop, let's see, is a bunch of limiters on every channel, and then a pitch shift on level channel 10. This 30% mix is going down 12 semitones with the stock Logic pitch shifter thing. And the final channel of the feedback loop has fracture, which is a glitch effect, Boys, which is a delay effect, and just an EQ, and then the same limiter that's on everything. And that's the feedback loop sound. And it fades away by itself, basically. And the other sound that's going to the feedback loop is, I believe it's the keys. So let's go get the keys real quick. Because I believe, yep, the keys. So without the feedback loop, the keys are going. So you hear that, how it fades away, how it tails off. So I'll play the end of that without the feedback. So you hear it. It's like more like. Excuse me. I have to mute it. So I always forget that. But with feedback, I can't. It's weird. It's wiggly. You see how it ends abruptly? It just ends. with the feedback loop, it's trailing on. The other sound that's feeding to the feedback loop here I see is the keys. So we're going to solo that and then see how it, with the feedback loop, let's play it. So you can see the keys aren't always there, and then the feedback itself fades in and out at different times. So how the feedback loop is affecting in this situation, the key sound and that reactor screwwell instrument, you see the reactor screwwell instrument only pops in at these volume these points of the volume automation. So in this song again, it's the feedback loop is not prevalent at all. In other situations, the feedback loop is the main bass sound, and it's always there, or it's affecting the drums and just more of the whole composition or whatever you'd like to call it. In this one, it's the beat would be very different, I feel, without the feedback loop, but the feedback loop is like, it's minimalistically there compared to other situations. So in the context of like, let's just play the whole beat and let's see if you can hear that slight and see the 10 channels faded away. Let's see if we can hear it in the context. Like with headphones in the real beat, the ninth wizard, 2 Z's, so it's not wizard, it's wizard, yeah, whatever. But in the real beat on my YouTube channel also, you can hear it much more clearly, I would think. But let's just hear it here and see if we can hear it. And I'm gonna turn down my bass, which right now, my sound right now is coming through the TV on the screen and a subwoofer that is kind of like, it's a vibration table. So it's not really a subwoofer, it's a vibration table. So it makes rattly noises, basically. It doesn't sound good when you turn it up too loud. But that's just what I'm listening to now instead of my DJ speakers or my other stuff. But anyway, turning down the vibration table and then playing it. And so over here you can see how it fades away and it's not there at all. And then it fades back and then it is there. And then, so like in this part of the song, it's kind of more prevalent, I guess. But you can't really, until I pause it, we can't really hear it unless like, so, it's there, it's filling in empty space. It's obvious, like it's there. You can see the 10 channels active. You can see when the feedback, like the master channel, the feedback out is feeding out. You see it's feeding sound, and when we solo it, we can hear it. But in the mix of everything, it's really hard to hear. And so that's in the future. That's what we're going to dive into. How all of my Logic setups have this feedback loop, and how when I rewire to Ableton, there's another feedback loop set up in Ableton that then comes into Logic that then I can then send to this feedback loop if I want to. And then or if I'm working with FL Studio, the sounds that are coming from FL Studio, I can feed to the feedback loop in here if I want to. Or we can get hardware involved with analog feedback loops too. And so before I update my MIDI keyboard or do more beats like this, I'm just testing the waters, press and record on this and just doing something right. So here it is, and hope you liked it. Peace.